This is the Build Your Path podcast, where we explore how people get into their careers in the built environment.
Today's guest is Nataschu Brooks. Nataschu is a senior VDC engineer at Barton Malow Builders and has over 7 years' experience in the industry. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Shapiro and Duncan. Build the lifestyle you deserve. Welcome on into the Build Your Path podcast, hosted by myself, Matthew Pine. I am with my guest today,
Nataschu Brooks. I'm a VDC engineer with Barton Malow. The coolest thing for me is pursuits because I get to visually narrate the story of our projects, which tells a story of how we're going to construct the project for the client rather than just using words to describe our narrative.
So Nataschu, appreciate you joining the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yep. So if you want to walk through with our listeners, how you got to where you are now, maybe what pathway did you follow to get where you wanted to be?
Okay, so for me, my dad was in the military. So my entire life, my entire childhood, I lived in different places. And the exciting thing about moving to a new place was always just, exploring the new infrastructure of the cities and stuff like that. And also, my dad was a very handy man around the house. He used to build furniture for me and my sister. So it really got me involved with like the arts, such as music and as well as just drawing. So in my free time as a child, on the weekends and even after school, I would just sit there and learn how to draw, famous cartoons or take the cover of a book and start sketching that scene that was on the cover of the book. And then when I got to college, I still continued to just do drawing and playing the saxophone. Well, not college, sorry, high school, when I was starting to apply for colleges and thinking about what I really wanted to do. I had to think about like what did I enjoy when I was a child. So for me, architecture was just perfect. Like you get to draw, design, and be around cool infrastructure and study different cities. So for me, architecture was a way that I could still have that fun of my childhood, but still, pay my bills once it was time to adult.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. People might not necessarily think of those two and link, music or the arts or something with going into higher ed and architecture, but that's pretty cool. Do you have like a mentor in your life, would you say?
So I would say I don't really have like one person that I just idolized as a child, as a young adult and as someone being in my early 30s now.
Mm-hmm.
When I reflect on a mentor, I feel like the people or the person that has shaped me to be who I am, it's people that I've come across, be it, my childhood friends, my classmates from college, as well as coworkers. I feel like I'm always getting inspiration and aligning myself with people I feel like have good qualities and they're doing great and amazing things in their life. So a lot of times I just reach out to friends that I've met over the years in the industry, former professors, as well as coworkers who aren't even in like my department. They might be in marketing, and I just always just ask them advice on things that I set that are goals for myself, and you get that encouragement or you get that advice. Or maybe they have a point of view just from a different profession that they're doing that you can always implement into whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that the people that are in my life from the day to day or just people I've come across have been my mentors. It's not really specifically, just one person. I've never been that kind of person.
So talk about maybe, obtaining your degree, what the steps you took were to obtain your degree.
So starting back in high school, since I knew I wanted to do architecture, I made sure I did my research. So I ended up applying to 4 schools. It was Temple, Drexel, Howard University, which is in DC, and Hampton University, which is in Virginia. And I made sure that those 4 schools were accredited by the NAB Association. And I applied to all those schools, got waitlisted for Temple, didn't get accepted into Drexel. That was actually my number 1 school.
Oh.
But I ended up, when I went to visit Hampton University's campus, that's the day that I actually found out that I got into the school.
Oh.
And so that was exciting. For me, I ended up going to Hampton University, which is a historically Black college, which was founded in 1868. But our program is very diverse. It wasn't just people that were Black that were in my program. It was very, very vast walks of life and ages as well. So obtaining that degree, the cool thing about their program is that it's a 5.5-year master's degree program. So a lot of times with other schools that are accredited, you're in school just to get your bachelor's for like 5 years. So just in that 5.5-year time span, I got my master's degree. They don't have a bachelor's program. So if you don't go through the whole 5.5 years, you don't get your degree in architecture. Right. And you do the half year, you study abroad, and you go to another country and you do urban planning. So when I went abroad, we went to south of France, and also Paris was the last leg of our urban design learning experience. When I had graduated, it was 2012, and it was really hard to find a job because at that point, the economy was just turning around. So a lot of my friends and I, it took us like a year and a half after graduating to get our first professional job that was actually in architecture. Wow. And unfortunately, with my college experience, because the economy was so horrible when I was in school, a lot of us didn't have internships because firms were just, trying to stay afloat, and they couldn't afford to, entertain a college student and teach them the ropes. They were just trying to stay afloat and pay their employees. Right. So that's something that was a little bit unfortunate with my experience, was that I never interned when I was in college.
Okay. And not to backtrack too much, but you did mention the NAB accreditation. Is that right? Can you explain what that is?
NAB is National Association Accreditation Board.
Okay.
Yes, and they're the ones who, and this is actually pretty cool. So I think it was my sophomore year. We were in the middle of accreditation. So we kind of got to see that experience of having people from that accredited board just sneaking into your class for the day and taking notes to see if, your classes are meeting the criteria for the school to stay accredited. So I think Virginia only has 3 schools that are NAB accredited, and I think Maryland has 3 schools that are NAB accredited as well.
So what do you see as some of the more pressing issues facing the industry?
I guess diversity for me
comes
to mind. I've never really worked with a lot of women, this is the 3rd place where I've worked. So it's either been lacking women or lacking someone that looks like me in terms of the color of my skin, or even just a variety of other ethnicities as well. Right. I'm not quite sure what the disconnect is with that. I can't really pinpoint what that disconnect is, but I do say that the industry's challenge is diversity. There's diversity in field, but there's not diversity when it comes to management of construction or engineering projects, or people in the office making the decisions. It's normally just, one specific person that comes to mind.
Right. What is the coolest or the most unique thing that you've ever done in your position?
I think it's just all the technology. I would have never thought that I would be a licensed drone pilot. That was something that when I first started working here that I didn't have any interest in doing. And it's just cool to just do those kind of things and your job backing you for any interest that you have. For the most part, when it comes to technology in our department, if you find an emerging technology out there, they're willing to test it to see if it's worth it. So I think that's really cool, is that you just get to try so much technology and you're always experimenting to seeing if it's a really good fit for our whole vision and mission of our company. So
What's it been like for you to work in your field of engineering or in architecture?
I would say it's a lot of fun because it's not just stereotypical 9 to 5, I could be, like I said, on Friday flying a drone outside or 3D laser scanning the inside of a building. But then tomorrow I could be going to the office and working on a 3D model in a meeting and collaborating with other people in my office or in another regional office, like in Tennessee or in Detroit or in Orlando, Florida. It's not like I'm just stuck to a desk and someone's micromanaging, how long have I been away from my computer?
Yeah, that can get a little monotonous and annoying, I'm sure. So
yeah.
So have you had a chance to work with younger people at all? I know you mentioned, various mentors in your life.
Yeah, so the good thing about working at Barton Malow, the Virginia office, we have clients. We have 2 university clients, and both of them are Virginia Commonwealth University, as well as UVA, which is University of Virginia. It's in Charlottesville. And at VCU, they have an event where it's called Sports Day, but it involves like showing the kids the technology. So in the basketball facility, they have various vendors where the kids just get to come around and learn about different types of technology. And in our booth is just specifically about construction with technology. So the kids get to experience virtual reality, as well as we just purchased a Suit X, which is this exoskeleton.
Yep, I've seen that before.
Yeah, so we have one of those, and the kids get to, well, they don't get to try it on, but we'll have it on, and we're showing them like the importance of the exoskeleton and how this could be the new wave of the future for field workers to have those when they're doing construction projects. And then UVA has a girls' day, so it's just all about young girls from middle school to high school. And there's various, it's not just us at that one, construction-wise. There's Gilbane there, as well as I believe like some of our competitors have vendors set up. And the girls just get to go around and ask questions. And we have the same kind of setup we have at VCU at UVA. And they just ask really cool questions, and some already know how to use the stuff that we're talking about. It's really cool. Yeah. So you also get to just see how smart the kids are as well, and what they're interested in when it comes to technology as well.
Yeah, I know I've had that similar experience. We go to junior achievement expos, and they, come around and get to actually, explore what the construction industry has to offer. And, it's kind of cool to see. So what do you like most about working for Barton Malow?
I like the fact that this is the first job where I've kind of been my own boss, even though I do have a supervisor, but I'm the only person in this office that does what I do. So I like the fact that even though I'm not, a man, I don't have like this high manager title or their senior level title, that I do get to sit in meetings with senior level staff, coworkers, and they trust my decisions and they trust the things that I'm recommending for us to utilize on projects or on pursuits. And they kind of just let me, since they have that trust, they just let me get to experiment and trust that I'm going to make the right decision. So I think that's what I like the most. This is the first job where I'm kind of the one leading the decision making for the specific skill that I have for our office when I'm collaborating with others.
That's awesome. So say a young person came up to you and they asked, why should I go into engineering? Why should I go into architecture? Why should I enter this industry? What would you tell them?
I would say becoming an engineer. I know I did architecture, but that's still considered, in that engineering umbrella. It's just a diverse field. Like, you can go and work for any kind of company that does anything. I have friends that have worked for major lighting design companies and they've collaborated with like Pixar. I know people that I went to school with that work for Disney. I've met people through other people that I met at like convention centers, even in college, and they've went on to work for like Google, Tesla, Amazon, as well as construction competitors like Gilbane, DPR, and Whiting Turner. So, and I have friends that work for major international architecture firms. So it's not like, I don't know, someone who's in finance, they're just going to be crunching numbers wherever they go. But it's just diverse. You're not limited to just working at a construction firm or an architecture firm. You can go to work for any company you think of it, they need an infrastructure expert.
So, as a bit of a wrap up for you, you mentioned, the drone technology that you've been involved with. You mentioned the exoskeleton. What are some of the emerging technologies and maybe, how they are utilized by Barton Malow?
So I would say that every construction company is going with virtual reality, augmented reality, drone flights, and laser scan. I know one unique thing that I'm not sure what other construction companies are doing out there is that internally we have a competition that we call the pitch. It's kind of like the concept of Shark Tank. So every year we have a specific person who oversees innovation within our company. And so what happens at the pitch is, I think it's 5 to 10 people who've come up with things that they believe will solve problems that we're having on construction sites. And they get to pitch their idea. Sometimes it's an actual literal product that's tangible. Sometimes it's software, development. And it all started because we did have someone, his name is Nick Fredericks, and he developed software for a Navisworks and Autodesk software to make it run more efficiently. He developed a plugin, and they ended up partnering with him. So our job is always just looking internally for innovative ways to solve construction problems or make construction for the workers a lot more efficient. So on the last pitch, a PE on the Shinola project, he developed a dumpster where when you bring the dumpster, the dumpster rolling hauler to the main dumpster, instead of you having to pick it up and dump, the heavy or unload all of the debris into the main dumpster, they ended up developing this technology where you just pull up the dumpster to this platform and it dumps, your overhaul trash into the main dumpster. So that's the kind of innovative stuff that internally that we're developing for our projects.
Great. Yeah, it seems like, Barton Malow, along with some other companies, really reshaping the way construction is portrayed, I would say. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, Nataschu.
Thank you for having me, Matthew.
If you want to learn more about Build Your Path podcast or the built environment overall, go ahead and visit buildyourpath.org. Another big thank you to our guest, Nataschu Brooks, from Barton Malow. Once again, this episode was brought to you by Shapiro and Duncan. Build the lifestyle you deserve. Build Your Path podcasts are produced by the Maryland Center for Construction, Education, and Innovation. I'm Matt Pine. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.